Well, welcome back. I'm happy to have with me today Kelly Clonts. And you might not recognize her because you come from Georgia. Oh, you would say the great state of Georgia.
The great state of Georgia, yes. Not too far away.
Not too far away. But she's going to be talking about something today that's probably very familiar to most of you, and that's your body. You know, your aches and pains, the things that go on in your body, you know, energy, stress. So we wanted to talk about that today because you started out, I understand, in psychology.
Yes.
And then you have branched out to natural remedies, right?
Absolutely. I was so turned on to the options that are available to us naturally that I wanted to learn more. And fortunately, there's a long history, a legacy of natural medicine from around the world that was to learn. And so over 25 years now, I've been a student and an educator in this arena.
Okay, so herbal medicine, aromatherapy, all of that.
Correct. Yeah.
And a lot of people probably don't get into that because they don't know. They go to the doctor and they get lots of pills for everything, you know, from your blood sugar to stress to the aches and pains that you have. And not to say that that medicine doesn't work, but I think what I'm hearing from you is that there might be some options that people can try. And as always, talk to your doctor. Add that in. That could be a good supplement, an add-on. But that's what we want to talk about today, because as we get older, we start to feel the aches and pains. I mean, we do. The muscles,
Unfortunately,
the
yes.
joints. Yeah.
Gravity takes a toll also.
Oh, it does. It does. So I want to talk a little bit about that, but also as we get older, as we get older, have problems with our blood sugar, right? And stress. And a lot of people would say as we get older, we shouldn't have that stress. But you know, the stress of the body, the stress of the aches and pains, and really not knowing how to deal with that. But take a pain reliever. And sometimes those pain relievers can have an adverse effect on different organs in your body.
Absolutely.
So let's start talking about that for just a moment. Pain.
Well, it's a common topic. So many people in our community, in our family, ourselves deal with pain. And an underlying issue behind pain is inflammation. I'll never forget learning about the number one culprit for not sleeping is inflammation. So when we think we're not sleeping because of the idea that I'm not getting enough activity, or I'm not eating the right foods, or I'm not turning off the TV fast enough, it could actually be stemming from other lifestyle challenges that's creating inflammation in the body. And that could be very uncomfortable. We toss and turn. The brain can't quieten down. We might even feel like the next day we have no energy. We feel groggy. We're not able to concentrate. And so this is a common theme that then carries over to a cycle that builds over the years. So as time goes on, we have more pain, we have more discomfort, we have more stiffness because maybe we're not getting enough exercise, enough stretching. So fortunately, there's the botanical world that brings herbal options for us to help improve circulation, to help address some of the stiffness, the aches, the pains, and even to where it affects organ systems in a positive way. So we might find that our brain is functioning a little better, our joints are moving a little better. And so that's what captivated me, because if we just work in the realm of synthetics, then we might find, to your point, we're actually hindering the function of organ systems, or even finding that we're in a vicious cycle of needing more and more of the medicines instead of finding ourselves getting to a solution. So my goal is to get to a solution.
When you said that, and I was thinking, could it be that when we're sleeping and maybe not sleeping, and that restlessness, we don't realize that it's maybe the pain in our body because we're trying to control that with either over-the-counter pain relievers or prescription medication, and so we're not solving the problem really, we're just kind of masking it.
Very good point. So what we want to find out is what's the culprit, what's behind my sleep disturbance, my restless mind, my aches and pains, so that I can feel better. And to your point, also going to the doctor and dialoguing, and letting them know, hey, I'm bringing in more dietary changes, more nutrition, even some herbal and supplement options to help support my body's own natural recovery potential. The body wants to heal. We're
Right.
just trying to give it the tools that it's looking for that's available in Mother Nature.
But now let me ask you, what would you recommend for that? Because I see you have several products up here. What helps with that?
So what's fantastic about the botanical array we have on the table is they all have the potential of helping with improved body response to what the body naturally wants to do. So if the body naturally wants to have good circulation, if the body naturally wants to help tissue and cells that have been injured or inflamed repair, then we have these assistants. But in addition to that, if we're that tendency to go to something synthetic, let's say an acetaminophen type product for aches and pains, and we find that that's no longer suiting us, it's because we're not necessarily giving the body the assistance for the healing process. So what we're trying to do is find out what can we address that's natural and clear, with the ability to improve the circulation and also the ability to address the redness, the stiffness, the aches, the pains, and it could be occasional. So for example, a product that's sitting in front of me has the word acute pain relief, and that acute means this is something that's come up. Maybe I've gone to the gym for the first time in years, and so my body's reaction naturally is stiffness, and there's some inflammation, and there's some discomfort. There's a recovery period. So if I want to help my body assist that, we use what's called antioxidants. All 4 of the products in front of me are loaded with antioxidants, and one of the most famous is the raw material called curcumin. And curcumin's antioxidant ability is something that helps our body to support recovery process. And so if I have maybe a surgery that's scheduled and I want to talk to my doctor about how can I get through the recovery process a little faster, then I can talk to him about bringing in even something natural in the realm of curcumin. So a lot of doctors are very familiar with this compound now. There's actually a doctor that wrote a book on curcumin that's been out for about 15 years.
See that? Could I see
And
that?
it's available to pick up complimentary. And the ability for doctors to bridge this information to us has been more and more relevant, and I think this is one of the botanicals that you're hearing practitioners even talk about. So it's no longer a foreign language. But when you come into the health food store, what's brilliant is these folks have been working with these botanicals for decades. So they're like, oh yeah, we know a lot about what this plant is known for, useful for, can be beneficial for, and if it's about trying to get up and move easier in the morning or have better endurance and sustainability throughout the day, if it's about being able to address, like my husband, I use him as a story a lot, and I know he'll probably see this, and his ears are probably burning as I'm talking, but he went through a lot of injuries and a lot of recovery, and these were botanicals that were so important in his daily routine so that he wouldn't become dependent on something like a pain medication. Right. And that's a really important topic for our community.
You know, I'm looking at the book here,
Curcumin.
Okay. Osteoarthritis, back pain, fibromyalgia. Okay, talking about lung and liver, heart, depression, diabetes, obesity, cancer. You know, a lot of us face these problems sometimes, you know, throughout our life, some of us. But this would be a good read for people.
I think so.
Just to, I guess, maybe educate them on the product, how it might affect them. And it could be something that they could work into their own daily regimen, after they talk with a doctor. And we always preface by saying that, because certainly, but it's natural. It's all natural. So it's not something that is laced with anything else. So that's what I see as important. Okay, so for pain, this would be a good product.
And it uses a combination of 3 botanicals. So curcumin is one of those botanicals. Also another plant that many people know is the tree frankincense, but it goes by the name boswellia, and also black sesame seed oil. So that combination of these 3 plants offers what we call herbal synergy. So it brings more results than just working with the plant individually. So that's a really nice concept to have when we're trying to work with the body holistically, is addressing things from all angles. And that's a really nice segue to also mention this particular formula. Healthy Feet and Nerves brings in the same frankincense tree, the boswellia, but also adds to that additional antioxidants. So the antioxidant action is to help the body in addressing the oxidative damage. When we're breathing air, I heard you talking about water earlier, so we live in an environment that creates naturally an aging process. So if we have very few toxins or stressors, as you mentioned stress earlier, then we are going to age more gracefully. But if we have a lot more pollution and problems with toxins in our diet, our environment, etc., then we need to provide additional allies in our diet to help offset the damage that can happen from oxidative stress. So this includes a lot of different ingredients that support also the nervous system that can be damaged from this arena, as well as, like in my husband's example, from injury. And the two can complement each other nice. And so this is a great thing to ask about when you're visiting your local health food store, is how can I bring in the vitamins, the minerals, the antioxidants, the herbals together to have maybe a faster or better outcome.
Right. I was looking at this and it said it's vegan, with no sugar, salt, yeast, wheat, gluten, soy, dairy products. Important to a lot of people that, you know, are looking for products that
That's right.
don't have this in them. And when we talk about our feet and our nerves, feet, legs, and fingers, it seems to me as I'm getting older, that's a problem. You know, that can be a little bit of a problem. Maybe the numbness in the feet, numbness in the legs, and in the fingers. So this actually helps the nerves. Okay.
And they complement the circulatory system. So when you have proper circulation, as I was regarding earlier for bringing in the benefits of something that stimulates the circulatory system to a degree, then it provides the nutrition to get to where it needs to go for the tissue to benefit. And so when it comes to damage to the circulatory system and the vascular system, it brings us to a big topic, which is blood sugar.
Oh,
and that can be the culprit a lot of times, is there's too much blood sugar and it's damaging these pathways for the nervous system to work, the cardiovascular system to work.
so when we talk about blood sugar, you know, diabetes, and a lot of people have a problem with that, which affects other parts of our body, as you said. So let's talk about that for a moment. Blood sugar. What do you see, or what do you recommend for people that have problems with blood sugar?
So we definitely want to take a dietary approach. This is essential to evaluate what is elevating the blood sugar and triggering an issue with use of insulin. This is an important hormone in our body to escort glucose to our cells so we have energy. So a lot of times folks will complain about energy with blood sugar problems, and it's because the cells are starving for energy. And so when we want to help the cells to actually utilize that insulin, and also there not to be too much blood sugar just hanging out in the vascular system and not getting into the cells, we can bring in botanicals to assist that. Also, minerals are quite famous. One mineral that's included in a formula such as this is called chromium, and a lot of doctors are very familiar with chromium. Other antioxidants, one is called alpha lipoic acid. That's also included in this formula. But the most popular lately is one called berberine, and this is an alkaloid from a plant called barberry. Barberry probably grows in these parts. And it's also from other plants you might know, like yellow dock, golden thread, golden seal, yellow root. I'm from the South, if you can't hear it my voice. So these are plants we know that have this particular spectacular compound that's used in gastrointestinal issues, metabolism issues, and other problems where the immune system might be challenged. So it covers a lot of ground. It has a lot of popularity, especially in utilization for blood sugar. And what I've also found is doctors are becoming more and more aware of berberine as well. So this probably will not be a foreign word, even if someone in my family were to go ask their practitioner about this as an option compared to maybe something else they're already working with. it would be beneficial to closely monitor that with your practitioner and or your pharmacist.
Berberine. I had not heard that word. And what I'm seeing here, it helps with blood sugar levels, cholesterol, triglyceride balance. It helps with the liver function, cognitive health, okay, the cells, joint health. And this is all natural again, right?
Yes.
And it's vegan.
Used for thousands of years. It has quite a history.
So there's nothing contained in this that should hurt you.
Being a compound from a plant that's been utilized and researched for so many years, we have a wide range of safety and use with it. I always ask people to have dialogue and to get proper research and information on hand when bringing in new botanicals. Some people might be very tolerant at even a higher milligram of working with a product, and other people might need to adjust that.
I see that.
Yeah, so we even have complementary literature written by other doctors that are working with these botanicals in practice. This mentions a new botanical to us, but famous around the world with over 70 years of clinical research, called Hentonia. And this is going to be another antioxidant that benefits our cardiovascular system and has quite a role to play in blood sugar balance.
You know, I always like to read.
Well, we'll leave these with you.
Oh, well, I'm just saying for anybody that has health concerns or they want to feel better, the books there are here to read and find out for yourself, really, what's going on with your body. Because, you know, when we have an aches and pains, sometimes we don't know where it's coming from. What's the root of the cause? You know, what's the whatever. So I'm thinking to myself, if I were to read up on these things, natural, because, you know, some people might fear, okay, I can't take this because I'm taking another medication and it might interact with it. But these are natural products. All right, now let me ask you something. I see here ginseng, and I've heard a lot about ginseng over the years, but, you know, have never really delved into it. But I see that you have that here, and I see the word energy. Now, as we get older, energy tends to go by the wayside. So tell me a little bit about this product.
Well, the legendary name for ginseng has been the longevity herb.
Okay.
So it's quite famous around the world for many, many years to help us promote sustainability, sustenance, and the ability to have energy throughout the day. So here in the States, however, we have a depletion of ginseng. So much of it has been over-harvested or even shipped off to other parts of the world. And so what was being harvested a lot of times here might have had a lot of pesticides, herbicides, things that we wouldn't necessarily want our food or our herbal remedies to be utilizing, because we want to have clean, really strong, sustainable products. So this product's quite unique because it's grown hydroponically and also in vertical gardening, and it allows there to be a nutrition source to the plant so that it becomes potent much faster than traditional growing means without herbicides and pesticides. So this is the equivalent in potency of a 20-year-old ginseng root, which is quite hard to find typically in the marketplace. And by that longer growing period, it allows for the compounds to develop into what we call more rare ginsenosides. That's a big word, I know, for the public, but it's an important compound that is really involved in helping this to be what we would classify as a longevity herb, help us for recovery. So anybody that complains to me about maybe they've been sick and they've had something that they feel like they've never recovered from, or a big stressor they've never gotten over, or a lot of challenges currently that feels like they've got their candles burned at both ends and they're taxed out. Ginseng is one of the first herbs I think of, and it complements nicely some of the other raw materials we've actually talked about, these herbs we've already mentioned, that supports the cardiovascular system and the systems to recover, and with antioxidants.
I was just thinking while you were talking, and I remember hearing my dad talk about ginseng, and he was raised in the mountains.
Yeah.
And so when he was young, he would find the ginseng and would sell it to the doctor, the doctor in that little community. So 80 years ago, doctors saw the importance of ginseng, and I remember hearing him say in his later years that it was harder to find.
That's right, exactly. And it's definitely got the longevity in the herbal practices that go back generations, thousands of years actually around the world. And in fact, the book that we have on display here is written by an MD. Dr. Teitelbaum is very excited about this particular raw material that's available to us that's really clean, well grown, very active in the ginsenosides, these more rare compounds that are not necessarily in the potency we would like to see in some of the typical products in the marketplace. To your point, it's not adulterated with anything, so it's not going to have extra caffeine or stimulants spiked in there, so it's true to form. It's safe for all age ranges, but typically it's the adult population that works with ginseng. So it's one of these compounds that we find that can be very useful even for concentration, if somebody is challenged with mental focus and acuity. Yeah.
Energy, fatigue.
Yeah.
All the things that go along with everyday life. So with now let me ask a question. Can someone actually take this with this, or this with this and this?
Certainly. What we would generally find out in talking to somebody is what is their goal, what are they trying to achieve, and it would direct when to use certain things. Also, as it speaks to energy on the box, then I probably wouldn't take this in the evening. So this would be more of my daytime remedy, but other antioxidants and herbals we might find we need to use more than once a day. So for instance, berberine, the acute pain relief, Healthy Feet and Nerves, these are products that people tend to take more than once a day.
Okay. Well, I'm always interested in finding out healthy solutions where we don't have a bag full of prescribed medications. You know, I've heard people say, I take 40 pills a day. I take 30 to 50 pills a day. And I'm thinking, gee, you know, if there was another solution to that, where one prescribed medication wasn't working against the other medication, and we could do it naturally, then our body should be better off.
Absolutely, because what the goal would be is to bring in the right array of nutrition, even if we're looking at herbs and supplements, to where we hone in on what our goals are. So we would want to establish, is my goal about having a better night's sleep? Is my goal about having better energy during the day, better digestion, pain relief? And sometimes one or two botanicals can cover a lot of ground. And it might be, for instance, when we were talking about blood sugar, making sure that the literature is handy to reference for these foods actually trigger elevated blood sugar, so I want to cut those back in conjunction to bringing in these additional antioxidants or supplements that help to support my body's own balancing of how metabolism should be working, for example. So we have a lot of good options that all have good research and a lot of documentation, even clinical studies. And those are archived beautifully, and so when you visit this health food store, you can reach out for literature and material such as these books that I should mention actually have a section to them to speak to the doctor. So it's written for the doctor. So it's written by a doctor for the doctor. And that's helpful because sometimes a practitioner, like my mom's doctor, would say, I'm curious about this botanical, and I have something at my disposal that's easy to put my hands on. If I don't feel like I can articulate what he might need to hear, that I could just hand to him. So the resources are so valuable, and it's so nice to be able to be here to talk to you today for the community to learn more about what's an option for their goals with their health.
Well, you know, when we're talking about health, and that's why I like to go into Nature's Outlet, because the staff there is so knowledgeable. I mean, they train, and when you walk in, and if you have a problem, you just tell them, and they're going to recommend or suggest a different product, different products that might work for them. And so education is important. And I know when I go into a big box store and I'm looking for something, I'm searching and I'm trying to find somebody that can help me with it, but they don't have any knowledge of the product or what it's actually used for. The only thing they can do is read the box. Whereas when I go into Nature's Outlet, they know the product and they know what to recommend for whatever situation when a person comes in.
Yeah.
And I like the literature too, because so many times we want to read up on what this medication is about, what our problem is, what are some natural solutions, to make us feel better. So that's why I think it's great that you came on today to try to educate us about healthy products, things that are natural, things that, don't, interact with other medications. But as we always say, check with your doctor, because that's important. But being natural, I think people feel better about taking a supplement like this.
And it's become more widely recognized. In other parts of the world, the natural options are what typically people lean into first versus the synthetics. That was how I was brought up as well. Here is my parents had an organic garden. We just didn't call it organic in the 70s. My grandmother would always ask certain things about my health, and we had foods on the table that weren't, potato chips and crackers to start out a meal. Instead, it was vegetables from the garden.
Right.
So, over time, through the years, there has been this trend to instead just pop a pill instead of looking at what are we doing on a day-to-day basis to take care of ourselves. And when I got into nursing and working in psychiatric medicine, the field was riddled with just automatically going to the big guns in the pharmaceutical world. And even if we were talking about a 6-year-old child, it didn't have to be, a stressed out 40-year-old woman. And so there was this natural tendency for myself to kind of recoil from that. I felt like this is maybe not the starting place. And so when I learned about the first antioxidant I was exposed to and herbal options, I became so curious that I started studying it. And the health food store is a great platform to begin because, to your point, there's so much available from the knowledge of the team at Nature's Outlet, for the literature accessible, to bring in questions. Years ago, I used to manage a health food store, and quite a few of my customers were also medical doctors and practitioners, and they would come in and buy their antioxidants and their herbal formulas for themselves and their family. But they might feel hesitant to recommending that based on the guidelines of their medical association, what they can and can't do. So, sometimes the language that I will use talking to my practitioner, or my mother, for example, who I'm helping out with her practitioner, is we would like to bring in some dietary changes. And then I can introduce them to what those dietary changes are. Yeah.
That's a good way to start.
It's a great way to start.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you, Kelly, coming on today and educating me as well as the public on natural remedies or natural products that are offered. Sometimes I'm thinking to myself, I'm sure there are different levels of products. So when you're dealing with your body, though, you want to make sure that you're putting into that body the best product that you can, the best product that you can find. And so it's something that is, I guess, it's backed. Maybe that's the best way to say it. But it's been clinically studied and proven to be effective.
That's an excellent point. One of the reasons that I feel comfortable sitting at a table with this particular brand, Terry Naturally, is that Terry Lemeron, who founded this company, has been in this particular arena for over 50 years. And he, in my opinion, finds the best medicine makers of herbal medicine around the world. So if in parts of Europe, they're naturally going to botanicals, let's say berberine for an example, or curcumin for an example, and they are documenting what they're finding useful about that and sharing that with their practitioners and apothecaries in public. Terry has been such a wonderful bridge to bring that here to the States for us to learn, because that language and that information hasn't been so readily accessible through the years. And I also love that he is very stringent on quality control. So everything's going to go through testing actually 3 times, and it's done by a third party. So if something is shown to be organically grown and everything is clean and pure about it, there's no adulterants, there's nothing fake about it, you know, you could just take that at face value and go ahead and do some extra testing to make sure that it's copacetic, that it's true to form, that this is really red ginseng, this isn't just something spiked with caffeine. So that when you're reading the legacy about this plant and what we're also learning now about the benefits for the body, that we can actually tie it to a product that has the sustenance and the clinical data to back it up. So all of that literature that we talked about today actually references clinical applications and use with clinical studies.
Okay. And you talked about Terry, and I've had an opportunity to interview him before, extremely knowledgeable about his products. And I was noticing Terry Naturally here. So you know that when you buy this, you're getting a proven product. And that is good. Well, thank you so much for coming on today and helping us learn more about what we can do to make ourselves feel better and do it in a natural way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Glad to be here.
All right. Well, Clonts, it's spelled differently than the way it sounds to me, but Terry Clonts, and she certainly is a professional in this field, and I appreciate the knowledge. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Stay with us. More Star News programming coming up next.